Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. It is post-match reaction showtime after Liverpool have won yet again in the Premier League. This time it was a lot more difficult than it has been over the last few weeks. Wolves gave us a hell of a game. Liverpool delivered one of their poorer performances of the season, although it always feels difficult to judge. You know, obviously a midweek match after that huge effort they had to put in against Manchester United, away from home against what is a very good Wolves side who cause us plenty of problems, who set up very well, who've got quality all throughout the side. It was inevitable that this was going to be a tougher game than most. I just don't think any of us expected it to be quite as close as it ended up being, and most of us didn't expect Liverpool to have to need an 84th minute winner from Roberto Firmino to get over the line. But you take what you can at the moment. When it's 30 years since your last Premier League title, you absolutely take what you can. And if you offer me 3 points, I don't care how we get them. I don't care how much stress I am put through all the way through the 90 minutes. If we come out the other end with the win, then to be honest, I do not mind at all. I've got to say I was more stressed in that game than most for this reason. Some of you may recognise this glass from most of the videos. As you can see, a massive piece of it has been taken out. That happened while I was washing up before the game. And last time something like that happened, I smashed a Liverpool bowl back in 2014, and a couple days later, Gerrard slipped. We throw away that seemingly impenetrable lead at the top of the Premier League table, and the wait for the Premier League title goes on. So you can imagine how stressed I was seeing that happen, and suddenly I've gone from thinking the league is completely wrapped up as I did after the Man United game to thinking that I will not say anything until the ribbons are on the trophy. But for now, at least, while we're still riding the high of that victory, I think it's safe to say that Liverpool have pretty much got this one over the line. That really did feel like one of the last tests, and the fact that we've got through that, when you look at the games we've got coming up, none of them seem to be as difficult as what we've come up against tonight, especially given the circumstances, not just the quality of the opposition, but what happens to Sadio Mane in the first half as well. You know, that injury, which hopefully they're talking about it being a precautionary hamstring thing. You know, obviously with the position Liverpool are in now in the league, we don't have to push players through when it looks like they're going to be injured. If it looks like Mane will be better off just coming off, even if it's to the detriment of what's happening in the game today, for the benefit of future matches in the Premier League campaign and the Champions League and FA Cup campaigns as well, then it makes sense to take him off and just take the loss for this game at least. It definitely did affect Liverpool. You know, Minamino comes on for his Premier League debut, and I think he did struggle a little bit, which is entirely inevitable. You know, it's clear that Liverpool have no interest in throwing him straight into the first team at this early stage. He will get the usual treatment that any Jurgen Klopp signing has had. You know, Fabinho had it, Andrew Robertson had it, Oxlade-Chamberlain had it. Every single one of them has had to go through a careful procedure of being introduced to the side at a steady rate. It will be the same for Takumi Minamino, and hopefully it will reap the same rewards of him ending up being a fantastic player for Liverpool Football Club. But as a result, it is no surprise that he didn't perform to maybe the standards that we expect from him a little bit further down the line with the game today. He wasn't expecting to come on. We didn't plan for him to come on. I thought he did himself, you know, no difficulties whatsoever. He hasn't set himself back at all with the performance today. I don't think he did anything wrong. There were a couple moments where he just looked like he maybe didn't quite have the strength, or his positional sense wasn't quite there. I think he dropped wide a little bit too much, which is maybe because that was what he was being told to do. Of course, Mo Salah was playing very centrally today. Roberto Firmino as well, continuing his role as the false nine. So it was essentially down to Takumi Minamino to provide a lot of that width, especially given down that right-hand side, Trent Alexander-Arnold was a little bit more defensive than he usually was today. So there was a lot demanded of Minamino, and maybe he was put in a position where he wasn't necessarily able to shine. Of course, with Wolves playing that back three, which can turn into a back five when they're out of possession, he was never going to have too much space. So I think, you know, the lad did absolutely fine. You know, looking at the other attackers, Mo Salah had a relatively poor game. I know it's difficult to really judge his performances, because when he doesn't score on a performance like this, you have to say that he's being greedy. You kind of have to say that he should be passing in those situations. But you look, we've got plenty of other examples of games like this one where Mo Salah ends up getting his goal. You know, thinking about matches like the Salzburg one earlier on the season, even the one against Man United at the weekend, he misses some really good chances, and maybe you can say that he's being too selfish, but he ends up getting the goal at the end of it. Today, that isn't what happens. Thankfully, Liverpool get the win anyway, but you've kind of got to take those performances with the ones where Mo Salah gets the goals, because at the end of the day, he is a goal scorer. Even though he's not a striker, he plays out wide. His role in the team is to stick the ball in the back of the net, and he's got to play like that's his role. He's got to always believe. He's always got to have that confidence that he can take any shot on. Sometimes it's not going to work, other times it will. Today it didn't. We get over the line anyway, so it's not a huge problem if we're being perfectly honest. But also I think without Sadio Mane in the side, a lot of a burden is placed on him, and hopefully we don't have to face that issue for long. I think think further down the line, if Mane does continue to be injured, it probably won't be Minamino that replaces him. I think Minamino is probably going to get the game against Shrewsbury in the FA Cup at the weekend, and then if Mane can't play against West Ham in a week's time, then it probably will be Origi who takes his place. But I think it was interesting with Mane out the side, just how much that affected Liverpool. You know, essentially nothing came down that left-hand side for the last hour of the game in the absence of Sadio Mane. Also defensively as well, Robertson was under so much more pressure. Adama Traore was causing him so many more problems. Of course, Adama Traore completely going for Robertson in that game. He had no interest in coming up against Van Dijk. He came close to him a couple times, and both times he comes off worse massively. There's a few times where he just gets nowhere near the ball, and another time where he knows Van Dijk's got him beat in a foot race, so instead he takes on a shot from 30 yards, which is absolutely bonkers. That's what Virgil van Dijk does to people. He was one Liverpool player who I thought was absolutely fantastic tonight. I think plenty of the boys were off their game a little bit. Andrew Robertson certainly struggled, although again, in the absence of Sadio Mane offering him some extra help defensively, that kind of explains why maybe he wasn't at his absolute best, and he did look like he was under a lot of pressure and was isolated by Adama Traore as we got into the second half of the match. But I thought Virgil van Dijk was brilliant. Joe Gomez as well was pretty much faultless. Alisson was fantastic, digging us out when we needed him most. And then I thought Jordan Henderson as well, who's been brilliant for Liverpool lately, absolutely fantastic, gets his goal as well, which is fantastic to see. He doesn't get among them very often. I don't think we've ever seen him score from a corner for Liverpool as well. You know, as he gets more and more defensive, those are maybe the only options he's really going to have to score from a corner. Of course, with Fabinho coming back now, that was great to see. I thought he was just fine when he came on. You know, the Wolves' pressure gradually rescinded once Fabinho had come on the pitch, so maybe that's a sign that he had some sort of influence. But of course, Henderson gets moved into that slightly further forward role, but I thought throughout the game he was fantastic. Deserved the goal even though it comes off his shoulder. Another assist for Trent Alexander-Arnold as well, which is absolutely mental. And that's the thing about this Liverpool side. You know, even players like Trent, you talk about people like Mane and Salah who can have bad games and still come up with match-winning moments. It's the same for our right-back as well. I don't think he had his best game for Liverpool today. I thought he was really, really isolated at times in that right-back role. Stood up quite badly by the Wolves wingers and got made to look a little bit of a fool at times in the defensive side of things, but he still plays in a brilliant cross. He still gets Liverpool going. He gets a goal that at the end of the day makes a massive contribution towards getting Liverpool those 3 points. All around the pitch, we have got match winners who are capable of delivering, whether things are going well for them or whether things are going terribly or whether things are going in between, and that is just testament to how brilliant Liverpool are at the moment. In an ideal world, we should have the game put to bed by half-time. I know that feels a little bit selfish, and Wolves were a good side, so that's maybe a little bit disrespectful towards them. But the chances we've got, you know, the Mo Salah one especially, where he does the difficult bit so easily. He just glides through the entire Wolves defence, and then the actual shot at the end, I think, to be fair, it's an excellent block from Matt Doherty, and if he doesn't slide in at the last minute, then it probably does go in. Again, that's the kind of situation where it would have been 2-0, and we'd all be praising Mo Salah and saying, yeah, he was a little bit selfish today, but he comes away with the goal. He puts Liverpool on their way to 3 points, so we can't really criticise him. It's those really, really fine margins, and when Liverpool are doing that well, it's just ridiculous to criticise players on fine margins. You know, at the end of the day, sometimes things aren't going to go their way, but Liverpool get the results, so it's not a huge problem. But yeah, I think in that first half, we had some opportunities. I think Roberto Firmino had a couple chances as well where he should have buried it. He had some of those in the second half as well. It certainly felt like the goal was coming for him. He was getting more and more involved in the game as it went on. It was quite interesting to see whenever you saw close-ups of him. He was looking quite angry. He was looking quite agitated, and sometimes I think that doesn't work in his favour. You know, he's such a silky, calm, intelligent footballer that you almost think he's better off when he's just calm. He's assessing, he's relaxed, he's assessing what's going on around him, working out what the opportunities are. But today he just seemed to see red and think, I've got to dig us out here. And he's been that player for us more than ever over the last couple of months. It's been a real turnaround for Firmino. I've often talked about Mane and Salah as those match-winning footballers, and Firmino being the one who facilitates it. But looking back at the Club World Cup, his brilliant performance against Leicester as well, away from home, and plenty of other games around that where he's got goals that have set Liverpool on their way to 3 points. He is really becoming a vital player in those difficult moments for us. That role is essentially being passed around the squad. Whenever one player drops the mantle, another one picks it up with aplomb, and it's been great to see Firmino pick it up, you know, because he has been criticised in the past. The one thing that he hasn't offered Liverpool is finishing ability, but that is really starting to come in when it's been needed most, because it's a fantastic finish, you know, on his weaker foot again, and he's been really good on that left foot lately. Looking back at, of course, the goal against Spurs at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium a couple of weeks ago as well, he's digging it out when Liverpool need it, and that is essentially that is the byline for this entire side. That is the slogan that goes underneath every single player, is that they will always, when you need them most, they will deliver. They'll make mistakes. They are only human. That is natural. That happened today. We concede a goal. Alisson lets the ball into the back of his net for the first time in 62 days. But when we needed him later on in the match, when the saves needed to be made, he's getting down low and making it. He saves a one-on-one with his face, for goodness sake. These players, when it matters, are always coming up with the goods, and that is why we are so far clear at the top of the Premier League table, because sometimes things go badly, but they never let it affect them. They always turn it round. They always get the win, and that is what is putting Liverpool on course for what should be a 20th Premier League title. Like I said, with this happening, I'm kind of a bit more hesitant now, and I think I will wait until the ribbons are on the trophy before I say it is absolutely done and dusted. But we've now come out of our most difficult run of fixtures until we play City at the Etihad, and all things being equal, which is by which I mean Liverpool winning every single match and City potentially winning every single match, but that is by no means guaranteed either. That will be the moment when Liverpool finally clinch that title. But for now, at least, let's just revel in what the side have done tonight. They've dug it out when they had to. We haven't seen that for quite a while. Liverpool have been relatively cushy over the last couple of months. We haven't seen those dramatic last-minute winners for a while. In some ways, it's good to have them back. In some ways, I wouldn't like to see one again for a while. It was a very, very stressful match. I think all of us need a little bit of a rest now. And if anything, I'd like to see a much calmer one against West Ham in a week's time. But until then, that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. As always, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button down there. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos, pardon me, that have been out on the channel over the past few days. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter. I'll be back soon for the pre-match content for that game against Shrewsbury on Sunday. Until then, bye for now.